Since I was a kid, I have always chosen the window seat on commercial flights, watching the world scroll by at 30,000 feet and 400 miles an hour. But have you ever wondered what those same landscapes would look like just 1,000 feet off the ground? In this video, I'll take you on a 3-day journey across the southwest US, from the open cockpit of a gyroplane, cruising at just 60 miles an hour, close enough to feel the contours of the Earth. This is a travelogue. We'll fly low, trace ridge lines, cross mountains and deserts, as well as pass over landmarks you may have driven by, but you've never quite seen like this. If you are a pilot, I also have a sister video from a pilot's perspective. Be sure to check it out, but this version is for everyone else. I've been flying gyroplanes since 2018, with over 350 hours logged in this aircraft. Though I now have my private pilot's license, nothing beats the low and slow freedom and panoramic visibility of a gyro. We call it the gyro grin for a reason. When my friend sold his gyro to a buyer in Southwest Texas, I volunteered to ferry it cross country. It was the perfect excuse for a flying adventure and a chance to meet some incredible folks along the way. Let's do a quick overview of the gyroplane I was flying. Gyroplanes may look like a helicopter, but they fly like a plane. The rotors on top are not powered, but are pushed by the wind flowing through them to create a wing surface to the wind, just like a plane. The engine-driven propeller out the back creates the thrust that pushes the aircraft through the air, generating the relative wind that creates the magic of flight. I call it my motorcycle in the sky, and this metaphor helps you understand the freedom and challenges this type of flying entails. This trip from Lincoln, California to Lamesa, Texas would traverse 1,145 nautical miles through California, southern Arizona, New Mexico, and into western Texas. Much of my flight would be over unpopulated areas, although I will have to travel through part of the congested Phoenix area. This gyro has a great digital avionics suite, so I will know where I am, where to go, and how far until my next destination at all times. I also have a radio, and we'll be communicating with air traffic control where possible, although some of the remote areas where I will be flying won't have communications at the lower altitudes. I had to pack creatively as there isn't much space, and I needed to bring much of this back with me on my Southwest Airlines flight back home. So I carried enough emergency supplies in case I got stranded for the night in some remote place. I dressed for a lot of sun exposure, as well as a winter coat to keep me warm on the cooler mornings. It may be 80 degrees on the ground, but the combination of altitude and open cockpit can make it much cooler in the air. We made an early start to give us the best winds and to maximize the daylight for flying. As I depart into the morning sky, my mind is racing as I think through all the things that may happen and all the details I need to take care of on this adventure. For each leg, I will start with a map to orient yourself. On this first leg, I plan to stop at Visalia, which is 184 miles from Lincoln. Gorgeous reservoirs dot this area, and as I approach Pardee Lake, I decide to dip down and get close to the smooth water surrounding me, doing what the gyro does best, diving down close to the calm water in the morning light. Then it's back up to 1,000 feet over the ground. This area is a beautiful intersection of the central California Valley and the rising hills, eventually scaling to the Sierra Peaks. It is beautiful as the morning sun reflects off the lake, framing the idle houseboats pointing into the wind. The rural landscape begins to fill with the urban sights of Fresno. Neighborhoods fill the view. Fresno International Airport has a steady stream of mid-sized passenger jets coming in and out this morning. I wonder if any passengers on those jets notice this little white gyro flying in the sky nearby. Heading south past Fresno, the Central Valley turns agricultural, and I'm feeling good about the flight. Part of the landscape is large dairy farms, and yes, you can smell them from the gyro. As I descend into Visalia Airport, I'm feeling good and ready to go for the next leg. After a quick break, I start the second leg of my journey, heading south in California across the mountains and then east towards southern Arizona. This leg turned out to be shorter than I expected. Departing Visalia Airport, I fly south over a broad expanse of agriculture and dairy farms, eventually giving way to native grass fields meeting the rising mountainous terrain to the east. My plan was to land in the desert past Palmdale, but I noticed the vehicles on Highway 58 are passing me as I push into a headwind at less than 70 miles an hour. As we leave the rich agriculture of the San Joaquin Valley, the Mojave Desert awaits on the other side of the Tehachapi Mountains. Entering the pass, the headwind is stronger than I expected, and my indicated airspeed is only 64 miles per hour. My ground speed is showing 42 knots, or 48 miles an hour. I'm flying at 6,500 feet in order to stay 1,000 feet or so above the ground. So I decide to make an intermediate stop for fuel. It is fitting that as I transport this gyro from California to its new owner in Texas, I use the Tehachapi Pass, which has been a trade route for centuries. Bear Mountain frames the pass to the west, and I enjoy the scenery as I aim toward the Tehachapi airport. I slowly descend to land, making a cautious approach as I navigate the high winds. While the wind is mostly down the runway, I have to taxi very carefully to ensure safety as I refuel and get ready to depart. Because of my unplanned stop at Tehachapi, I now stretch my next leg all the way to 29 Palms, 2 hours of flying over the wide, sunburned expanse of the Mojave Desert. As I climb out of Tehachapi Pass, I pass through the massive Tehachapi Wind Farm, one of the first large-scale wind projects in the U.S., with over 3,000 turbines slowly turning in the desert wind. Solar farms now fill some of the gaps, harvesting every ray of sun this land offers. And here and there, where water finds a way, small patches of agriculture struggle to hold on. But mostly, this is desert, vast and raw. The wind swirls unpredictably, lifting and dropping me in pockets of turbulence. I watch apprehensively as dust devils spin in the distance while I continue east through the Lucerne Valley of California. There's something about this landscape that invites quiet observation. Interesting observations are everywhere if you are looking. I pass over a lone car collector who's carved out a home in the emptiness. A little further on, I fly over the Johnson Valley OHV area, where tiny figures in UTVs race across the sand, enjoying their own kind of freedom. For a moment, I think about landing, but I still have far to go. I settle for a wave from above and keep moving. Airports are rare in this part of the desert, but I do pass over the sprawling Southern California Logistics Airport in Victorville. It's packed with airliners, some in storage, others waiting for a second life. The dry desert air is kind to machines. My little gyroplane feels out of place among these giants. The headwinds are relentless, and my ground speed drops to just 36 knots, about 40 miles an hour. At this pace, the desert feels endless. Time stretches. The landscape, once flat and featureless, begins to shift. Rocky outcrops rise like ancient bones, breaking up the horizon. And then finally, the town of 29 Palms appears, the airport tucked next to Highway 62. As expected, the winds are fierce. I wrestle the controls, ease the gyro down, and taxi in for fuel. Another leg behind me, with many still ahead. This leg is the longest of the trip as I race eastward toward Goodyear, Arizona, aiming to land before civil twilight slips away. I pick up the pace, keeping a few alternates in mind in the western Phoenix area, just in case fuel runs low before I make it. It's been a long day, with over 7 hours in the air, but I feel surprisingly good. The Builder's Bar helps keep the energy up as the desert stretches on. Southeast California brings a subtle shift. Rocky hills begin to break the horizon more frequently. As I pass Pinto Mountain, the turbulence picks up, winds rolling over the terrain, lifting and dropping the gyro. While the stability of the gyroplane smooths the ride more than a small plane might, Mother Nature still makes it clear who's in charge out here. I cross the Colorado River just north of Blythe. The sun inches lower, leaving California behind and entering Arizona. La Paz County in southwest Arizona feels like another planet, desolate and timeless. It's hard to believe there was once a bustling gold rush town in these hills. If these rocks could talk, they might tell stories from 1.7 billion years ago, when volcanic islands collided with the North American continent, long before the brief moment humans began walking across them. I imagine those stories as I cruise by at 70 miles an hour, feeling lucky to share a fleeting moment with such ancient company. As the sun sets behind me, I drift into quiet reflection until the desert breaks open and Phoenix rises suddenly from the landscape. The sprawl of civilization jolts me back to the present, just in time for my approach into Goodyear. It's time to land, find a hotel, and crash for the night. After a night's rest, I get an early start in the morning, departing from Goodyear on the western side of Phoenix, Arizona. Up to now, most of my flying has taken me over remote and sparsely populated terrain, but leaving Goodyear, the challenge changes. Now I have to thread my way through the complex and very active Phoenix airspace. It's a busy aviation morning with clear skies and lots of traffic, so I stay alert, navigating through the southern edges of the metro area, eyes scanning for other aircraft, careful to avoid restricted zones, and giving respectful clearance to the jagged hills that rise up from the desert floor. Eventually, the city thins out behind me, and the quiet solitude returns. Heading east, the landscape opens up once more. I spot a sharp little hill pushing up from the otherwise flat ground, and below it, a deep mine carved into its side. Human hands reaching into the earth for resources we depend on. There's something humbling about passing over these marks we've made, signs of effort, survival, and ambition etched into the desert. As I approach Safford Regional Airport, the land flattens further, becoming wide and barren once again. I ease the gyro down for an uneventful landing, taxi to the fuel station, step out to refuel and refresh, and get ready for the next state on this journey, New Mexico and the town of Las Cruces. Safford Regional is the only paved airport in Graham County, Arizona, and I won't see another one until I'm nearly to Las Cruces. Aside from a few road crossings, I'm flying over vast, empty terrain. It's remote, and I'm grateful for the quiet reassurance of my Garmin inReach in my pocket, just in case I ever need to call for help out here. There's no sign marking the border between Arizona and New Mexico, just the same endless high desert spilling across the horizon. By midday, the sun has started working its heat into the earth, stirring up clouds and lifting the air. Winds begin to build. Vertical movement increases. The ride gets a little choppy. Not as turbulent as yesterday, at least not yet, but just enough to keep me engaged. As I cross deeper into southwestern New Mexico, the terrain begins to shift. The high desert gives way to towering rock formations that rise abruptly from the ground. I am approaching the southern edge of the southwestern New Mexico ranges, and I can't resist dropping low to explore. I circle one of the outcroppings and skim along its top with a grin on my face, just a quick burst of joy to fuel me through the final miles. The desert stretches on, but soon enough, the edges of Las Cruces will form ahead. I descend into the calm air and settle in for a smooth landing, then it's on to my next and final leg for the day. Due to weather ahead of me, I plan to end day 2 in Carlsbad, New Mexico. This part of New Mexico is very sparsely populated. Heading east from Las Cruces toward Carlsbad, the first half of the journey is barren high desert. But as I get closer to Carlsbad, the terrain begins to shift. The high desert gives way to a gently undulating landscape that slowly rises toward a prominent ridge, its top forming a wide, flat plateau. It's an awe-inspiring sight. I later learned this is the Brokoff Mountains Wilderness Study Area, a vast stretch of public land managed by the Bureau of Land Management. Places like this are currently sparking debate as our country weighs whether to preserve or privatize large tracts of land. I can see arguments on both sides, but today I simply marvel at the raw geology, the silence, and I think of the stories etched into this rugged wilderness as I float by. Cresting the ridge, the landscape flattens out, at least at first glance. A little further east, the ground begins to break again, revealing canyons carved by long-forgotten water flows. Now flying lower, I can't resist dropping in to explore, gyroplane style, tracing the contours of one of these natural chasms with a grin on my face. According to my map, I'm nearing Carlsbad, but the land still feels empty. Eventually, a few buildings appear on the horizon, scattered across the plateau. The airport comes into view. I make my call, turn final, and ease in for a smooth, uneventful landing. As my shadow touches the ground beside me, I reflect on how extraordinary this journey has been. The solitude, the landscapes, the ever-changing skies. Today brought new textures, from the sprawl of Phoenix to the emptiness of La Paz County to the canyons of New Mexico and the quiet plateau where I just touched down. I'm tired, but it's a kind of tired that feels good. There's something about seeing the world at 70 miles an hour, just a few hundred feet above the ground, that invites reflection in a way no highway or airliner ever could. After a long day in the air, I look forward to quietly reliving today's adventure over a cold beer and a barbecue sandwich. The start of day 3, my final flight from Carlsbad to Lamesa, Texas. After a morning exploring Carlsbad caverns, I returned to the airport for the final leg of this journey. Carlsbad has clearly become a hub for oil field aviation, serving the sprawling Permian Basin, now the most productive oil region in the country, even outpacing Saudi Arabia in recent years. As I taxi out, I pass a lineup of sleek corporate jets that arrived sometime after me last night. The gyro seems to be the talk of the FBO. These machines are still a rarity in the US, and I imagine the Gyroflight profile doesn't have much in common with those jets. Still, there's a shared respect in the air. As I depart Carlsbad, the adrenaline is high as I know this is my last flight of this journey. Civilization quickly gives way, though, to the solitude of the deserted New Mexico landscape. Crossing the Pecos River, the landscape begins to shift. Oil rigs start to appear. First a few, then dozens, scattered across the terrain like mechanical weeds. The novelty fades quickly, though, replaced by kind of a quiet awe at the scale of it all. Soon I cross into Texas, and patches of agriculture begin to emerge. Massive, dusty crop circles stretch out beneath me, hints of growth in a thirsty landscape. I watch a lone combine at work, its precision striking as it cuts horizontal lines into the wide, circular canvas of soil. These geometric patterns, circular fields and square oil pump pads, blend together into a patchwork of production, each turning out something of value. I watch as irrigation systems sweep across the fields, leaving temporary dark spots on the soil before they vanish again into the dust. Even flying at a good clip to stay ahead of the weather, the cars on the highway below me still manage to pass me. Texas moves fast. At last I spot Lamesa in the distance, my destination. I know the new owner might be watching, so I give the approach a little extra polish. Another smooth touchdown. The winds are fierce, so I take my time taxiing off the runway and into the crosswind. Off to the southeast, I can see the weather building, layers of clouds stacking high. An hour after I land, I get a text confirming the storm's arrival. My timing was just right. A gentle reminder from Mother Nature that she sets the pace out here, and every flight, no matter how routine, is still on her terms. I enjoy meeting with the new owner, who is really excited to add this Magni gyroplane to his hangar. After a nice drive in the rain up to Lubbock with a local pilot, I catch a Southwest flight to take me back to California. As we lift off over Southwest Texas, I take a deep breath and give myself a quiet pat on the back. This was the gyro journey I was hoping for. Days spent tracing the land from just a few hundred feet up, exploring some of the most remote and beautiful corners of this country. If you made it this far in the video, then you've been right there with me, experiencing it all from the comfort of your chair. I hope you'll join me again for the next Silva adventure. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to support the channel, and thank you truly for coming along on this Silva adventure.